we never really anticipated all of these new trends. I mean, let alone NFTs, but with total value locked in these DeFi protocols, there's other ways to, protect yourself and hedge yourself and earn income in a stable way as well, whether that be with stable coins or other DeFi protocols. Watching the crypto market go from a few $1 million in total value locked all the way up until, $100 billion plus. It's just evolving so quickly. Yep. If I was not staking my assets, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity of earning yield on an asset that also has upward price potential per utility.
Yeah, the DeFi space, although the DeFi space has, largely suffered in 2021, but with the proliferation of stable coins, I think that we're shaping up to have a massive year for DeFi in 2022 due to the growth of these stable coins.
Yep. And then I guess in regards to comparing, the stock market with Bitcoin, bottom line is Bitcoin has been one of the best performing assets in history. But now we also feel that there's going to be greater opportunity in utility-driven assets and other what we call altcoins, which very well someday may not be even referred to as altcoins. So when they're serving a purpose in a variety of sectors, maybe we want to touch on some of that. I cannot imagine, just like what your Bluetooth analogy was.
Yeah, and I think that's super important when you think about, because the way we think about it at IronKey Capital is that we take a fundamental research approach to these things. So, Kevin, you mentioned total value locked. One way to look at it, that total value locked is an important metric to kind of keep just a barometer for the market. But really, what you need to be looking at is actually what's the ratio of the market cap to the total value locked, and then you can start to dig in and do a relative analysis to the different competitors in the space. And there's not so many people and even less funds that are doing this type of analysis in the space, which kind of leads back to my other point is that there's massive opportunity for active management as we move into this new paradigm.
Absolutely. So I guess if I had to ask you too, what do you think the, biggest industry use cases or sectors IronKey is most interested in for the highest growth, of course, being, incredibly risk averse, but just steady growth in the future?
So I think that DeFi is definitely here to stay, especially because, just relatively based on what's happened in 2021 and the institutional interest into DeFi. I think it's DeFi is really a big casino right now, but when it does find its use case in the real world, it's going to have a massive impact. One other space that's really important to myself is the big data and IoT space. We've had a lot of success investing in this space, whether that be the Helium network is really the first real world use case that we're seeing crypto proliferate in. So that's also something super interesting. Helium is a great example because you think about, what real world problem are they solving? They're actually solving a connectivity gap that sits somewhere between Wi-Fi and cellular data. So all these companies need to report on and synthesize their IoT data that's captured at the edge on these sensors. Think about sensors on a traffic light or soil optimizers on a farm. These are areas of low connectivity where it's not cost effective to use cellular data. So you enter in Helium with this new network that allows you to transmit and aligns crypto economic incentives with the transaction of this data in a way that allows this crypto network to scale at 100x the time, at 100x the rate that you can scale a traditional telecom business like Verizon or AT&T. There's a bunch of fixed costs. There's a bunch you get to invest in towers and servers to operate these networks. Not anymore. You can just plug in a Helium hotspot in your house and provide connectivity to all these businesses that need to report on their IoT data and use it for AI machine learning. So, Helium's a great example of real world application of crypto networks.
So perfect. So we really talked about what has happened in the past, where we see this market going. Would love to hear more about your guys' outlook for maybe 2022 going forward. And overall, would love to hear a bit more about the fund strategy.
Sure. So I can give a lens into the fund strategy. So, over the past 9, 10 months when I was thinking about, what are my strengths? What are our strengths here? How is this market continuing to evolve? I basically landed on, the best long-term investment strategy here is something like a fund with venture capital economics and public market liquidity. And what I mean by that is venture capital economics is that, we can do the fundamental research to evaluate these crypto assets early on in their life cycle. We can make educated bets on some of these early crypto networks. We can run infrastructure nodes to capture that yield, staking, DeFi, all those things. Coupled with public market liquidity is actually super powerful compared to a traditional venture capital fund, in the sense that we're monitoring these assets, all the data associated with them, all the time. So we, based on what we see in the market, we can choose to exit a position, or we can choose to double down on a position. So we kind of get that flexibility being in the liquid token space, but having those venture capital economics. When you evaluate a crypto network, you actually have to look at the supply side and the demand side. So tokenomics, you talk about the supply side. You need to figure out and project, how many of these tokens are going to be in the circulating supply over time. And then, so the supply side is pretty fixed. It's a quantitative analysis. The other side of that, which is a little more up in the air, is the demand side. So you need to project, what's the future demand for the network services that these protocols are providing, and how do you quantify that, right? Like, how do you look at the total addressable market for these things, line them up next to their competitors, look at Web 2 and how the different services that they're providing and how crypto is doing them better, or maybe more cost effective or cheaper, and so these are the types of things that we're analyzing at the fund. So if you want to learn more about IronKey Capital, you can fill out this Google form in the description. You can check us out at ironkeycapital.com. We put out a bunch of good research in the crypto space. You can find me on Twitter at Joseph Argiro. Not so active there, but you can definitely catch me there. Based on the fund structure, we're currently open to new investors until June of this year.
Thank you guys for hopping on today, and I'm looking forward to further discussion.